Hello, you gorgeous thing. We are back with another episode of Erotically Empowered. I had a couple weeks off from recording due to school holidays and just wanting to have a little bit of a break. So here I am back again, ready for some more juiciness to share with you all around pleasure, intimacy, feminine power, and unapologetic confidence. Now, I want to shift your mindset today from thinking of pleasure and orgasm as an end goal and rather as the journey. So rather than pleasure being the destination that you get to, pleasure, tripping on my words here, is the whole entire freaking journey. Because when we put something as an end goal to get to, when it comes to things like pleasure and orgasm, we are missing the deliciousness of getting there. And in fact, it's impossible to get there if you are not here along the way. Let me explain what that means if you're sitting there scratching your head. So when it comes to orgasm, okay, orgasm is a build-up and a release of energy in the body. I've spoken about this before. Hopefully, I've started to give you some understanding there. Regardless of how this energy is connected to, whether it is connected to via the supersensitive clitoris or whether it's connected to via penetration or perhaps with no touch at all through just full body awareness, full body energetic orgasm, it doesn't matter. It's a buildup and a release of energy in the body. Now, if you want to get to the buildup, you need to be with the energy that is building up. You with me? You cannot get to the energy that is building up if you are not with the energy, if you are not here and present with the energy as it builds, you can never get to there. Okay? If you are sitting here waiting for the end goal, you're never going to get there because you are missing being present with the energy that you need to be present with in order to get there. I am hoping that this is making sense. So this is the key factor, right? When we want to access our orgasmic bliss is being with the energy. But I want to go even further into this, even further into pleasure as a whole being the whole freaking point, the whole freaking journey. Not just waiting for some point for, I will feel good when it hits, when I feel it, blah, blah, blah. No, I feel so freaking good now because I am just enjoying the freaking ride. I am enjoying all the deliciousness. I am enjoying exploring. I have no attachment to getting anywhere other than here and enjoying the ride. And so many of us, and I get it because I was so, struggled so badly and so deeply with my pleasure that I just wanted to get there. Okay. And this was a huge, huge part of my journey was just letting the fuck go and making my whole entire life a pleasure practice. Not, so many of us, and women, we are notorious for this, is we struggle to receive. We struggle to be connected to pleasure in everyday life because we're living in our head. Go, go, go. There's always something to do, always something to do. And we're missing the pleasure as it is presenting itself in our everyday life. And then we go into intimacy and wonder why, I don't feel what I want to feel, or I struggle with my orgasm, or why is my libido non-existent? And yet we've spent our whole entire existence running from pleasure, not allowing ourselves to enjoy pleasure, because we are only associating pleasure with the end goal or sexual pleasure. I will feel pleasure when XYZ happens in sex, and this is what I expect to happen. But I want to shift your mindset to looking at pleasure as a whole entire existence. And this is what it means to be a turned on woman, that you feel and you can connect to the pleasure of everyday life and the smallest things. And that may sound absurd to you if this is the first kind of time hearing this or becoming aware of this. And I get that, because I I would have thought that too. But okay. The other night, so one of the new things I've introduced into my own daily practices is a self foot massage every evening before bed. Most evenings. I say every evening, but I'm human and sometimes I spend too long on social media, and then it's time to pull my head in and get off my phone and go to bed. And that still happens from time to time, and that's a thing that I've been working on. But I've created this new nightly practice, right, which ultimately was for me connecting to my body and self-regulating and regulating my nervous system more before bed, because I'm in a real journey of nervous system regulation right now. But what I found, so the foot rub is one thing, part of my nightly routine, as well as I put my legs up against the wall at 90 degrees for like 10, 15 minutes. And I'll do, even a few minutes of reading of an actual book, because I listen to books all the time on audio in my car, but rarely do I read. And this little, practice, these few things, plus a few others I sometimes weave in, has just really made such an impact in my life of, calming, regulating my nervous system and being more connected to me and my turn on. I was not going into this foot rub with any intention of it being pleasurable. I wasn't there with an intention of this is going to be pleasurable and this is going to be orgasmic. And I probably would have thought that was absolutely absurd to even think about that. It would have never crossed my mind. But, but, and I ended up writing a post on Instagram and talking about, then doing a video and talking about this. I connected to my orgasmic energy and it was feeling wildly orgasmic. I think it was on the second or third night when I started this foot rub. And I started just softly, oh my God, this just feels so good. And again, I'm going to repeat, I understand that this may sound absurd to you. I totally get it. I absolutely would have probably rolled my eyes and thought anyone speaking of this was, probably making it up, just exaggerating. But I'm not. And I know, I was going to say I hope, but I know that if you stay, focused on your own path of awakening and turning on, you're going to get to a point where you go, holy shit, Ali was right. A foot rub can be orgasmic. A sunset can be orgasmic. She was right. Oh my God, she was right. But I was rubbing my feet and it was just this insane wave of pleasure that arose in me. And I stayed with it and I just allowed myself to enjoy and bask in the absolute ecstasy that was flowing through my body in those moments. And it really cemented into me even further how different my life is now to back then. Because back then when I struggled with pleasure and orgasm, I just wanted to get there. There was nothing in my life, no points in my day where I allowed pleasure, except for when I would pull my 2-minute, my vibrator out for my 2-minute quickie, or when I tried something to force some kind of pleasure. And that was those very quick peaks, intense peaks, that just dissipated almost immediately. That was what I knew pleasure to be. I certainly did not know pleasure to be a frickin' foot rub. I did not know pleasure to be just driving in my car feeling a wave of orgasmic bliss as I stared at the sunset. I had no understanding of life being a pleasurable journey. I had no capacity in me to receive, let alone hold this pleasure. My life was living from my head 24/7. There was no living from my body, living turned on, being open, being receptive to these little subtle moments of pleasure in my everyday life. I wasn't open to it. I didn't know it existed. I wasn't open to it, and I certainly could not hold it when it would come in. So when little moments of pleasure would perhaps arise, which I couldn't even really recognize it because I was so shut off and living in my head, unconsciously, I would shut that down pretty damn quick because it was foreign to me. It wasn't my natural way of living back then. It wasn't what I thought was my natural way of living. It wasn't how I lived. Yet being open to pleasure and allowing life to flow through you and feel the pleasure that it holds is your most natural state. And when you are turned on like this, turned on meaning you are connected to what's alive in your body in every moment, so you can feel the freaking orgasmic bliss as it arises from the self-foot massage or from, oh my God, those chocolate-covered strawberries. I don't know why I thought chocolate-covered strawberries. I think that's just like a decadent thing that came to my mind. Chocolate-covered strawberries or the ice cream sandwich. I say that because that's an indulgence of mine at the moment. But the pleasure we are constantly naturally seeking pleasure, but we shut ourselves down from it and we shut ourselves off from it because we don't understand and we're not open to it and we're living in our mind. We are so consumed by this three-dimensional world that we are living so deep here and we're disconnected from the five-dimensional, the energy, the presence, all of that we are shut off from what is our innate way of being, which is being connected to that pleasure. And when we shift our mindset from how do I feel pleasure? How do I feel my orgasm? How do I have better sex? To how do I open myself to the pleasure of life? How can I enjoy everyday things more? How can I allow pleasure to be my journey rather than somewhere I have to get to? That I'm always just enjoying, and not always, of course, not always. I say always, but of course, not always. There's going to be the uncomfortable shit too. And that's part of being that turned on woman is you allow life to flow through you. I'm tripping on my words today. So even the uncomfortable shit, even the tough stuff, the pain, the grief, the anger, you embody it, detach from the stories. And I might even do an upcoming topic on embodying that. You connect to it so that energy can flow and it's just moving freely through you again. And this is how you connect to your pleasure. But you are just in this state of how do I live my life being open to feel the subtleties of life, the pleasure of life. Allowing pleasure to be the journey. And to do this, we have to get better at, number one, receiving, and number two, holding this pleasure in our body. And it's crazy how I notice now, and this is the thing, when you start to wake up, right, and you start to have your awakening in all different areas of life, and you're like, holy cow, this is not the way that I used to think it was. Wow. Like, wow. And that's how I see my own journey when I went from struggling with pleasure to, now orgasmic woman who feels orgasmic energy from a foot rub. But I see it in my head, in my soul, in my heart as an awakening, right? When you go from, how you were and you start to wake up, you start to realize that it's not what you once thought it was. When you begin to awaken, it doesn't mean you don't have all of these human challenges that you've had before. It doesn't mean your mind's never going to take you away. It doesn't mean all of that. No, it means you are awake enough to not let it take over, that you come back, that you notice when this happens. You don't go unconscious in your day, switching off without even realizing. And that's how I used to live my life, and so many, of us still do, is we don't even realize. We don't even realize that, and the day ends and we're like, oh, what just happened today? Like, did I experience any joy or pleasure? We're just switched off. But when you awaken, those things may still happen and will still happen, sorry. But you are now conscious to catch yourself. So I was, one of the things that I've really turned on to is beautiful sunsets. Like, oh my God, I appreciate it in a whole different way now. And where I live on the Gold Coast in Australia, if you don't know, we have some of the most incredible sunsets. The sunset just last night, it was the most glowing orange sunset that I've seen in ages. And I mean, we have glowing orange sunsets. And then over the beach, so the sun sets obviously over in the west and our beaches are on the east. So it's setting over on the west, and then you look over at the east and the beaches, and there's these beautiful pink and blue hues in the in the sky. And if you're at the beach, then I look at the water and it just, oh my God, like I get emotional thinking about it, that this is life. And I feel like a crazy person sometimes when I say it to people that may not understand. But it brings me so much pleasure because I'm so turned on and open to this. But my point that I was getting at, so if I'm driving somewhere at sunset and I look over and happen to see it, and I'll go, like often it will literally, I'll audibly gasp and go, oh my God, that's beautiful. It's literally exactly what happens in my car. I'll say it out loud to myself. Oh my God, like that is so beautiful. But you know what? Sometimes I will notice, so I'll be there just, enjoying it in my body, going, how does this feel in my body? How is this joy of this moment and this pleasure feeling in my body? And then bam, my mind will go, oh my God, what about that bill? What about that bill you got to pay? Where are you going to get the money for that? Where blah, 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 blah. And my mind has just suddenly taken me away, trying to, cause me to worry and take me out of that moment of pleasure. And I just have a giggle. So this happened last night, and in my mind, what was my mind saying? It was something to do with, I think, money. It was going, oh, you've got all this coming up, blah, 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 blah. You need to stress about this. And I had a little chuckle out loud, and I was like, I see you. I hear you. I see what you're doing. It's like that little annoying toddler that, yep, you're trying to take me away from this beautiful moment of pleasure. And that's cool. But I'm choosing not to listen to you right now. Like this all happens in a split second. And then I'll come back and go, okay, how is this pleasure feeling in my body? And I will allow myself to hold this for longer. And I will allow my drive to not just be a mindless activity, but an insane pleasurable moment. So then guess what? When I go into self-pleasure or intimacy, which not happening at the moment, I am pretty much celibate by choice and I'm absolutely loving it. I'm in this period of my life that is just so beautiful and sacred to me, and complete devotion and worship to me, which I had never done before. So I'm in an incredible state. But previously and now, so when I go into some sort of sexual pleasure, guess what? My body is open. My body is receptive. I am already turned on to what pleasure is. I am turned on to allowing it to flow through me. I have practiced receiving pleasure. I have practiced holding pleasure. I make it my everyday life. I make it my whole entire journey. You see what I mean? And you compare that to the old me who went through life. I could look at a sunset and go, oh, that's beautiful. Did I actually allow myself to receive that pleasure? No, because I can tell you right now, without even remembering, my mind would have taken me away. My mind would have given me something to worry or stress about instead of just enjoying that pleasure. You've got to, not got to, sorry, I say got to because I get very passionate, but you don't have to do anything. But if you want to open yourself to more pleasure, more in the bedroom, more sexual pleasure, there's a beautiful invitation here to make pleasure your whole entire life, to get better at receiving, which as women, we are shocking for at times, are we not? How many times has someone given you a compliment and you've dismissed it or, come up with, oh, thanks, this was, I just got this from the op shop. It was only $5. You're not receiving, you're not opening, you're trying to find something to squish down receiving that compliment fully and wholeheartedly, because we've been taught this is where the masculine, the patriarchal society living from the masculine energy has taught us to shut down and close from receiving for the sake of receiving, the receiving for the sake of I am just existing and I am freaking amazing and I will receive that compliment because yes, I am that. And you can practice that with the smallest of things, a compliment. When someone compliments you, thank you. And in that moment, allow your heart to open, allow your body to soften and receive. And then start, when you notice things in your life, start to notice the things that you find pleasurable or joyful. Perhaps it's that ice cream sandwich that you absolutely love and has become your new little treat fixation. Sit down and enjoy the freaking thing. Sit down and allow yourself the pleasure on your taste buds. Look at the sunset. I want you, this is your task today, to go and look at the sunset on the day that you hear this. I want you to go and look at the sunset and just notice as you're watching the sunset, if your mind is trying to tell you, bring in things that you need to worry about instead and trying to take you out of that moment, and just come back to, wow, this is so beautiful. How can I open my body more to be here in this moment with this beauty and this glorious sunset and to feel this in my body? Just breathe. Allow yourself to hold it. And if you were like me as well, my pleasure back then, as I've said, was a 2-minute quickie with a vibrator. I couldn't stay in my body for any longer. It took a lot of self-pleasure practices to learn to be able to stay with my body and create safety. But when pleasure started arising in the first, few times, I was like, "Oh, okay, this is actually feeling pleasurable. Okay, so now I'm done." It was like I had no capacity to hold that pleasure because it was all so new to me, And of course, I didn't feel the sexual pleasure I wanted because I had no practice of being in the body and allowing myself to hold it. So I just would encourage myself to stay a little bit longer. Just enjoy this for a little bit longer. And again, noticing when my mind would try and take me away from that and just have a little chuckle because the mind is a crazy, crazy, crazy human thing, right? It's a powerful thing when we use it correctly, but 99% of the time we are not using it. It is using us, right? And it's hilarious when you start to actually hear it and you start to hear it interfere and try and take you away from these moments of bliss. But it was just coming back and staying a little bit longer, staying a little bit longer, expanding on that capacity to hold pleasure. See how this is a whole different mindset shift from how do I orgasm? How do I orgasm? If someone approaches me and says, "How do I orgasm?" It's a quite a clear indication to me that they are not ready to open and receive and connect to their orgasmic energy and turn on. And that's not saying they can't feel that, but it's just saying from that mindset, which was mine in the very, very beginning, you're limiting yourself. Okay. It's when you shift from how do I orgasm to how do I open my body? How do I connect to my body so I can feel what is alive in my body? So I can feel life flowing through me. So I can feel without force. I can just be open to the ecstasy that my body holds. How do I connect to my body? How do I be present? How do I enjoy the pleasures of life? These are the questions in it's a whole different ball game. And it took me quite a while, I'm not going to lie. And this is why my awakening journey took several years. And I wouldn't change a single thing because I needed to go through that to get to where I am, and then this passion of wanting to share this with others and then studying. But I didn't have any understanding. I just knew I wanted to feel orgasm. And it was over time that I started realizing, okay, I need to forget about the orgasm and just start being with my body. That was my first thing that I understood. And then, it came very slowly over time. But if you want to become that woman who is so turned on to life, so turned on to the aliveness within her, to her orgasmic energy, that she feels her orgasmic energy when she gives herself a foot rub, then think of making pleasure. Think of pleasure as the journey. Think of pleasure as so much more than just sexual pleasure. Start opening yourself to receiving and start allowing yourself to hold pleasure in your body. Start looking for moments of pleasure in your life. Take your coffee in the morning and go and sit outside in the sun. Go, these little moments, but enjoy it. Don't go and sit in the sun and then think about your to-do list of what you got to do today. I got to do blah, 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 blah. Go and sit out there and enjoy the sun rays on your body. This is how you start to come to life. And this is how you become this open vessel to living this orgasmic existence that others roll their eyes at and think you're talking crap. I hope that this has helped you shift your perception, because that shift in your perception around pleasure is going to help you open more. I would love to hear, contact me via any of my socials or comments under my podcast if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify. But I would love to hear if this resonated for you. And have a wonderful day. Oh, your task. What was your task? To go and enjoy the sunset in a whole different way. Enjoy it in your body. And I will see you next time.